Much like someone who forgot to unmute his microphone for the upteenth time and wanted to make a D&D joke, Matt Mercer rolled a nat 1 and got Grug killed by a vampire. Hey everybody, it's Garson back with another episode of Forgotten Table Tales, along with my co-host Chitter. You can tell Chitter is very happy today.
It's hockey season. It's the playoffs. And the Leafs are up 3-0. Please don't let this backfire. Next week, they got reverse swept by the Senators. That'd be really embarrassing, but also entirely in character. They're going for the sweep tonight.
For those of you who don't know, Chitter's Canadian, so this is like something that's written into her contract. I can't remove it.
I basically said, look, you either let me talk about hockey or I ain't coming on the show.
It's true. It's actually written into our contract with our editing contract. Chitter has to legally be allowed to talk about the Leafs only if they're winning. I made sure to put that in there. Otherwise, she doesn't say shit about it. Anyway.
Really embarrassing moments like the Zamboni driver, but we don't talk about that. Twitch.
I have no idea what that's about. Anyway, we're not here to talk about any of that stuff. We are back after a week hiatus for Chitter to move to her new place, and we, well, you may have been watching our episodes on YouTube because we record those in advance. This time around, we're basically going to be playing it by ear for this week because we only have a few more classes left to talk about. And then we're going to be talking about, well, a few other things with OboJima. We got a lot of OboJima still to cover, don't get me wrong, but we'll just see how this episode goes particularly. So, last week we talked about a couple of the subclasses, namely the Druid, the Barbarian, and the Fighter. This week we're going to start off with the Monk, because we're just going to jump right into our first topic, and that's the Monk subclass. So for OboJima's unique, for the OboJima's unique subclass, they have the Sheep Dragon Shepherd, which is a monk. Now,
I wish Neffy was here for this.
I did too, but she's off playing Wilds right now, which is fine. So I'll be honest, I don't really think I understand this class as much as I should. So for those of you who are wondering what a sheepdog is, we're just going to scroll on down and show that real quick. This is a sheep, wait, was it a sheepdog? Sheep dragon. Yeah, this is a sheep dragon. So here's the thing about monks. Monks are the weirdest class in the game, in my opinion. Not necessarily the worst class. I think that honor goes to the ranger because they will never receive any love whatsoever, at all. Because everything cool that the ranger gets, the fighter gets, and then can do it 5 times in a row. But monks are weird.
As someone who does play a monk, I actually think that they represent something that can be a little bit difficult for other classes to show, and that is proper melee combat. Because sure, you have your swords, you have your whip, you have everything, but there's nothing quite like the storytelling description of absolutely just punching someone in the nuts.
Well, let me reiterate what I mean by this. I don't think monks are a bad class by any chance. I think they're pretty good. The problem is I don't think monks have an identity. So let me basically break it down before we get into the subclass itself. Monks are unique in that they get so many one-off passives that don't make a whole lot of sense in the immediate, but they eventually do add up to being able to do a lot of different small things that you can't normally get in other classes. For example, they get slow fall, which means they reduce the damage from falling, something that rogues get. They get their own point system and key points that, wizards and sorcerers typically do get. And they focus on melee weapons, which are like what fighters and barbarians get. So what makes the monk different is that it's all of these things in one, but they don't do anything particularly advanced in that regard. Now, that to me makes this class a bit interesting, because this feels like they're taking the ranger aspect of the monk. Just now realized that sentence doesn't make any sense. but they're taking Ranger aspects and combining it with the monk, because what Ranger's key component is that they get an animal companion. Or at least they used to.
Hmm.
Then the druids got him. And then the fighters got
Mhm.
him. And then the warlocks got him. And then the ranger,
Okay.
yeah, and then the ranger got a bow. But then the fighter got a bow. Basically, I'm really feeling bad for rangers, man. I don't know what happens to those guys. They get screwed over every edition, every edition.
Yeah, I'll talk more about the ranger class because actually I think OboJima does an amazing job story-wise with bringing in the rangers in a way that they have to be included. Not every single campaign, but you're going to have them either be a PC or an enemy in some regard, and I love that OboJima brings that power to them. But
So
anyways, before we get there, I do want to talk about this monk class, which is it's rather interesting. Um, because here's the thing. I'm someone who is playing a monk ill rigger in the campaign on Sundays.
mm-hmm.
And if I'm looking at uh basically this uh this class, I'm I'm going to say something that's probably going to make you uh giggle a little bit, but actually is kind of true. I
Yeah,
actually think
yes, I think things that are true usually involve giggles. But would you like to elaborate some more on your point?
um I think that this is the Jedi class.
I'm gonna need a minute here. You're gonna have to explain that because I do not know how this is the Jedi class.
Okay, this specifically is the Jedi subclass, where a lot of people tend to think of like ill riggers as like, oh, the Sith and whatnot. But there are a lot of like, for example, when you're talking about the Pride ill rigger, the Pride ill rigger has a lot of things that are very specifically Sith coded. Like, for example, when you restrain someone, it's called by the throat. Gee, I wonder what that is referencing.
Yes, I think we all know the force choking is very powerful in that regard.
Yeah. There's an ability right after with Invoke Hell that is the exact same as herding sheep. You gain the ability to herd your allies, calling them closer, moving them out of danger. As a bonus action, you can spend a key point to cause a willing creature that you can see within 60 feet of you to move towards you or in any other direction. This movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. If the creature moves towards you, it can move up to 15 feet per key point spent. If it moves in any other direction, it can move up to 10 feet per key point spent. A creature can't move in this way more than its speed would allow. So basically, you're doing the exact same thing as the Sith Illrigger, but it's flavored in a way where it's not you invoking demonic powers, evil powers. You're basically shepherding them like a Jedi would using the light side of the Force.
And
The next
before we go into that, that's actually also in the flavor text because if you look at the flavor portion up here, um, so right around here, I'm just going to highlight this part real quick and read it. They must be ready to flee to safety, yet know when to defend their herd. The role of a sheep dragon shepherd requires resilience, compassion, and a kind heart. Because of this, shepherds across the island are regarded by the people of OboJima as heroic and sometimes even mythical figures. Now, I know I'm not as familiar with the extended universe of Star Wars as you are, but I do know for a fact that the Jedi are held in high regard by the members of the Republic, even though they do try to forego a lot of their emotional side of things, basically. But they are normally very compassionate people sometimes, like Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, and especially like Ezra would be a good example of that. And they're resilient too because they're also soldiers, but they know when to act and when not to act. So that comparison you have is actually pretty apt in comparing
yeah,
this to the
it
Jedi.
yeah, it's fascinating because in the MMO Star Wars: The Old Republic, the Jedi, I don't want to say the counselor. It's one of the two Jedi paths. It's the Shadow, I think it is. or something along those lines. Cross would know better than I do. Um, there's actually a path where you have to choose whether or not to basically either basically what's going on is that a Sith is basically doing a galaxy-wide mind virus where he's basically uh infecting the minds of Jedi masters and making them slowly become insane and commit dark side acts, such as destroying a factory or attacking other people. You have the choice to either uh kill them on the spot, thus removing the issue but also killing a Jedi master, or using a ritual that can free them, but until the Sith is dealt with, you have a permanent debuff of strength. And once you do a certain amount of those rituals, you yourself die.
Hmm.
So you're on a damn time limit to find this Sith who's doing stuff, and you have to know when to act, who to save, and also, well, how to best proceed with you slowly losing resources.
The So I actually have a different take on this class when we get to it, and I'll explain when we get down to a little bit farther. But let's quickly go back to the herding sheep ability. At higher levels, when you use this feature, you can target additional creatures. So at 5th level, you get 2 creatures, 3 at 10, and 4 at 15. So every 5 levels, you get an additional one that you can target with that. And I think it says that you can still use the same amount of key points, which makes this ability really good at later levels, but not so good early on because key points allow you to do stuff like Flurry of Blows, some of your monk abilities like Water Whip. I'm probably from Baldur's Gate because I've been playing a lot of that lately. But like
Yeah.
that key point resources, they have to go into a lot of your other monk abilities. So utility wise, early on, you probably don't want to do that because your key points are very limited. I think you only get like 3 key points to start with, and you get like an additional one every 2 levels, if I remember that correct.
Yeah, something like that. What makes it fascinating is that I gave the Invoke Hell comparison, which is very similar. You get like one of those, and one of the features is the hurting, and the other one is like being able to do damage back towards an enemy for pride. So
Hmm.
again, it boils down to like, hey, if you're in a position, are you in an advantageous position right now? Or do you need to go on the defense and reshuffle around knowing that you absolutely have to you cannot like you can't defend yourself as much. It's very much a risk and reward system, and I love that for D&D. I absolutely enjoy it
So let's move.
because sure,
Sorry, go ahead.
because even though sure, you have to take into account you may not be able to use your key points. You may not have a choice because if your allies are in a very disadvantageous position and you have the ability to get them out of that, on especially with this class being seen as someone who is very much on the good side, like someone who cares for their party, you're not going to uh risk throwing that away, and you're not going to put people in risk just for the sake of punching more.
Fair
So
enough.
you may not be able to punch more, but you can get your allies to safety, and that's a risk versus reward because sure, you can't do that. You can't punch more, but you manage to get people to safety, and that's something that you have to consider. Is it worth getting the people to safety, or can you handle it yourself? And it comes down to that risk versus reward, and I love it.
So
Every single thing in this class is about risk versus reward.
that is true, but it also isn't really more. It isn't really risk or reward that this is dealing with. It's support or battlefield manipulation would probably be the better way to describe it. And a lot of people would consume that those are the two would assume those are the two same thing, but they're not because battlefield manipulation means manipulating everything to like a tactician would. You're the controlling the units. You're sending them to here, 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 and you're having them basically do an action that, benefits you and hinders them. Where support is you're putting buffs up to somebody or you're healing. And those two things are very different because you can have a class like, prime example, like clerics that focus on healing are support clerics, but trickery domain clerics are tactician classes in my opinion, because they like to use subterfuge and manipulate with like distract enemies and all that stuff. So this feels like a good blend of the two. And if you look at the other abilities, this actually kind of plays into that feel a little bit more. So with Wind Shot, the next ability on this ability, which you get at level 6, and for the record, you get Wind Shot I cannot say that word. Intercepting maneuver. There we go. Intercepting maneuver at level 6, which is great. But with Wind Shot, you gain the ability to mimic the Sheep Dragon's powerful wind pistol, blasting enemies with a powerful gale force at a direction. You make an unarmed strike. You can instead choose to make it a special attack, firing a compressed blast of air from your mouth. This ranged weapon has a range of about 60 feet and uses the same attack bonus and damage die as your unarmed strike. And additionally, you can expend a key point and have them make a strength saving throw against the save DC. Failed, they get knocked prone or get pushed back 20 feet from you. Your choice. So remember,
10 feet, Carson.
That's just what I said. 10 feet. What did I say? What did you think I said?
You said 20. Future Garson, please point that out.
Nah. Anyway. Whatever. Anyway. But 10 feet.
But again, going back to that Jedi comparison, that's a force push.
So I actually think of this as a different class. So to me, this is feeling more like an airbender from Avatar.
Kind of along the same mindset, really, just different universe.
Well, not really, because the Jedi were peacekeepers, but they also knew that you would have to like fight and stop your enemies in sometimes like that. But airbenders were strictly nomadic pacifists. They didn't like to fight. A lot of the times their fighting style was more about, like I said, manipulating the enemy into hurting themselves. They were strong, don't get me wrong, because we know what Avatar Aang was capable of, but the airbenders were not really known to be like as aggressive as firebenders or earthbenders. And that's what I think this monk is trying to be. Because while you may have the wind shot ability, which is basically just airbending, in a sense, the bonus to being able to either knock someone prone or push them 10 feet, that's never a bad thing. You're basically separating the fight from you and allowing you to make more of a tactical decision. So you're still controlling that battlefield aspect. And you are right, it's like a force push too. I'm just saying, like, with the wind motif around it. And also, yeah, with the wind motif around it, it feels more like airbending. And also, if you look at the shepherd dragon, I cannot say that name for some reason. The sheep dragon, they look like Appa a little bit, like from Avatar. Just the coloring, the face, everything. It just reminds me of Appa. A little bit more draconic, obviously, but it fits that motif.
Yeah, I'm kind of seeing that now. It very much depends on whether you run with the flavoring as given or you take your own interpretation of it.
Right. And obviously, ranged attacks on a monk are very rare to come by because they typically don't get a lot of ranged abilities because they're more focused on melee. Or when they do get ranged attacks, they typically have to expend key points to use that. This just gives you a ranged ability, and it doesn't take away from your unarmed strikes. It's actually just an additional version of the unarmed strike. And so that's pretty good. I like that. Even if you're out of key points, you can still help. And I feel this also kind of falls under like Eldritch Blast for warlocks, in that it's like there's like a signature ability that gives them a lot more range than they normally would without having to have resource management as a backup. And if you want to expend the key point to knock them prone or push them 10 feet, that's perfectly fine. It's an option, and that's a good thing. You have the option to do that.
Yeah, and then there's intercepting maneuver, which is fascinating because, look, Garson, we're both going to sit here and be entirely honest. How many times have I pulled a baiting seal out of my ass?
Well, that depends. How many times have you tried to open a door?
Shut up.
No.
But yeah, this feels like an abating seal because Sure, at level 6, you're sitting at like a 1d6 plus dex mod, so probably 3, 4. So again, it's not much less. And if you're going, and especially as you get to the higher levels with like 1d8 and then 1d10 plus whatever, that's as a baiting steel has shown in our Sunday campaigns, any damage reduction is huge.
It
And as a
is.
re and as a reaction to it, you can just go, "Nah, my ally's not gonna take that damage. Fuck you."
Well, and that's another thing. Like, monks do have self damage reduction because of like various built-in mechanics. Depending on, again, on the subclass. Like, for example, I think Drunken Master can reduce damage based on how like shake it off or something. I'd have to look at it again to be 100% on it. But every monk does have some kind of damage mitigation in their subclass kit. This one's just a little bit interesting because it's not just you. You can use it to reduce damage to healers or reduce damage to maybe a squishy DPS like a rogue who's behind a guy. So you set up. So basically, in this scenario, you're in front of the enemy. Their rogue is in the back. Now you have given them advantage so they can do sneak attack criticals. But the guy turns around, is about to attack. He has a provoked opportunity, so now you can use this to jump in front of the rogue because you're within 10 feet. It doesn't say like in a straight line or anything, and you can reduce the damage taken. Now, obviously, it depends on how much you're going to reduce it by, but any amount of damage reduction will at least guarantee that maybe they'll be able to survive the attack. And that's just one example that I just came
Yeah.
up with off the top of my head. But
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's even better than deflect missiles because if you take a look, deflect missiles on yourself is bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. This is just damage hit by an attack.
and it's also can work on magic too. That's the other thing. This is like one of the few
Yeah,
monk abilities that interacts with magic.
which is amazing.
It is. Now, it's obviously not going to stop a fireball, obviously. It's going to probably still blow up your entire field, but
But you
just
might be able to apply some salve really quickly and make that fireball just a little less fire.
probably pretty much. So, pretty much good defensive abilities at level 6, and also just getting that wind shot at level 6 is fantastic. Let's quickly take to the skies. By the time you reach 11th level, you master a unique technique that lets you glide on the wind, just like the majestic sheep dragon flying with the staff in Avatar. Just saying. With
Mhm.
you use Step of Wind, you also gain a flying speed. You can do your walking speed. This flying speed lasts until the end of your turn. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a fan of that,
Hmm.
and here's why. Um, it's not that I don't think it's a decent ability. I don't like it because you have to. Because think of it like this. First and foremost, you got to use Step of the Wind, which is like the Misty Step version for monks. So you got to spend a key point for that.
Right, right.
Now, you still have to move. I don't know if this uses the walking speed in addition to gaining it as a flying ability. So basically, you can go up 30 feet and then move. I don't think it's worded like that. I just think it's an either or ability. So you either are flying or walking. And if you are flying, you kind of have to be in a position where you have somewhere to go to, obviously. Because 30 feet up, you're just basically going to take fall damage. Now, slow fall will probably mitigate that, but.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm just going to look at slow fall really quickly because if I am correct, slow fall beginning at 4th level, beginning at 4th level, you take an amount equal to 5 times your monk level. So at 11 times 5 is 55, and fall damage would be from 30 feet would be 3d6, or even monk being like 40 would be 40. Oh, you would be totally fine.
Yeah, but my point is that. And then on top of that, when you use Step of Wind, you can take both the disengage and dash action as well. So basically, it turns your Misty Step into a more advanced Misty Step. Disengagement and dash are fine. They are the escape tools. Everyone's got them, and sometimes you do need them. They are important. They are important to have on your kit. I
Yeah.
just so essentially it's like you do get like you actually get like 60 feet of movement because you are getting that dash on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my problem with that. Um, how do I put this? So flying is kind of subjective. I think a lot of people think flying in D&D is like a really good thing, and they're kind of right. But the problem I have with flying as a DM is that a lot of the times players do not know what they are doing with the flying. And as a player, I don't like flying because there's not often times where it's useful. Like if you're in a like for example, let's say you're in a cathedral, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can fly up obviously into the rafters, but then how are you going to hit your guy if you're a monk? Because now you put at least 60 feet of distance, and you've spent a key point, so you can fall down. You might not take any fall damage because of slow fall, but you're still out of the way of the fight, so not super useful. And if you're outside, there's nowhere really to go to. Like you can probably climb up to like if there's not like if you're like in OboJima, the biggest area is an open field. Where are you going to fly in an open field that's useful for this? Um, and that's the thing with flying in general. It's like you either never really use it because there's no point in it, or you never are in a situation where it's useful to have either. I'd much rather have the
Oh,
jump, like the jump spell, because then you can propel yourself horizontally. No, that's actually going up. I mean, no, yeah, horizontally is going across, vertical is up. Ugh. But
Garson,
what?
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you forgot to take into aspect what this class is trying to do. Because sure, you're like, oh yeah, 60 feet. You're up and out of the way. What can you possibly do? Looks at wind shot,
No,
weapon attack.
no, I took
Mhm.
that into consideration. I did. I didn't forget wind shot. I'm
And
saying,
also and also you can spend one or more key points for the willing creatures of moving around. You're the tactician up and above. That's your role in this class. You are the tactician above the fight.
well, yeah, but your tactician ability is only to move people around like their chess pieces on a board. Which is good to get people out of situations. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. Maybe it's my own personal hang up on flying because I never really find it useful. But that could just be my take on it. And if that is, I accept that full heartedly. But I
Yeah,
will say but I will say that I don't really like take to the skies as an ability because it just doesn't feel. I don't know. It just doesn't feel amazing to me. But again, that is probably just my own take on it.
yeah. It very much is a class where if you know what you're doing with it, it's absolutely amazing. And if you don't, you will absolutely hate it.
Well, let's go on to Guide to the Herd. So this is the capstone ability. This is the last ability you get in the subclass. At 17th level, your vigilant watch of your companions while in the midst of combat allows you to give them a cue as if they should raise their defense. Whenever you use patient defense, you gain the benefit of the dodge action, and you can spend one additional key point to share that benefit with your allies. Each friendly creature that you can see or hear you in within 30 feet can immediately use its reaction to gain the benefit of the dodge action. Okay, see, so that one's a lot better as a capstone ability, not gonna lie. Because there is a lot of classes that don't get access to dodge at all.
Yeah. And dodge in itself is something that's very not well utilized, in my opinion, where if you have it, it's often not the option you want to take. Even with like familiars and constructs, they'll be like, they can take the dodge action automatically. Cool. When are you ever not actively using them?
Yes. And the benefit of this is that you don't actually that you're the one who can use the reaction. Well, no, if I'm no way, I'm reading that wrong. It's actually they use their reaction to use the benefits of the dodge action until the start of your next turn, but you basically can give them the ability to use the dodge action by using a key point.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what it is. So it's okay. It's okay. It's pretty good. Um, yeah, is this an amazing class? I'm gonna say no, not a bad
This
one.
one
It's just
Yeah, this one very much feels like they had an idea in mind. They weren't exactly looking to set the world on fire, but it does what it has to do.
yeah. This is the equivalent, in my opinion, as my dungeon master mind calls this kind of like the job class. It has a job, it does it well, but that's really all it does. And some people like playing that. Some people like to play classes where it's strictly just this is what I do, this is what I do well, and that's all I'm going to be on that, and that's it. And no problem there. Like that's just a play style. I'm not a fan of it myself, but then again, I play sorcerer, so what do you want me to say?
Yeah, you play the lazy class.
Okay, first of all, sorcerer is not a lazy class; it is a thinking class. There is a difference. But
Yeah. You're the ideas guy. Moving on.
all right, moving on. We're gonna move on to the tenets of the oath of the river paladin. Okay, this one's really cool. I like this one. So
All right, go on.
So, first and foremost, the thing about OboJima is that there are no deities of any sort. So, clerics and paladins don't have um, religious gods. They don't worship. They don't have any of that stuff. What they do is that they draw on their power from other sources. And this is actually a really cool take on it because it basically means that for some paladins, one of their biggest weaknesses is breaking the covenant with their god and becoming an oath breaker. Here, you are basically like more like a wandering Ronin samurai, but you still get the benefits of a paladin. So that's always kind of cool in my opinion. So, what's that? So, what are the tenets of the river? The river flows on. Forgiveness can be as sharp as any blade. The river quenches or drowns. Judgment is restricted to those truly deserving of it. The river rages. If I must battle, I would fight with all my passion and strength. The river seeks the sea always. I will not abandon my duty, especially when others are counting on me. So this is the oath of the river, basically. And in case you realize it, it's a very, very loose oath, basically. It's basically, I think the only way you could break this is to be a murder hobo. That's the only way I think you could break this as a paladin.
Yeah, this oath feels this oath, if I'm being entirely honest, I would love to see in normal D&D for beginner paladins, like someone who's never played a paladin before, just getting the chance to experience it and maybe have some subtle challenges like, hey, uh, for example, judgment is reserved for those truly deserving of it. Maybe like a judging who's more deserving of it. But this very much is a paladin for the people who are like, man, I like to play paladin, but I always find myself troubled with like moral quandaries I don't fully understand and whatnot. And the DM always seems to take a view different to me, and I risk being an oath breaker at every turn, which at some tables is a very real possibility. I'm not saying you are, Carson, but at some tables there can be that possibility where the DM is just an absolute hard ass for the oaths and whatnot. And to be honest, this kind of gives them an out, a way to say, no, my oath's just being a good person.
Yeah, and that basically is what boils down to the tenets of the river is forgive someone, but if they need to be judged, judge them swiftly. If you have to fight, fight with your passion, and don't abandon your duty. So basically just don't abandon the job. That's pretty simple to follow for an oath for a paladin. And
It-
on top of
It's
that,
what you're
yeah,
it's what you're doing anyway.
yeah, you just got to play the game and not kill everyone who's an NPC. Though I will say this, the paladins don't feel like the paladins in OboJima take on a more samurai approach than an actual medieval knight, which is actually very interesting, and that's why I love this class. Because I'm gonna go on a bit of a rant here, but I'm gonna try to keep it short. Samurai are much more honorable if you don't because they don't follow like the blind obedience of God, basically, if that makes sense. Now, to them, they're like, we are fighters, we are honorable, we fight in combat, and there will be killing, we admit that, but We do not, but death is not something to be afraid of. It is meant to
I,
be.
I, I,
Hmm?
I'm just gonna come out and say this as someone who's studied a bit of history and whatnot. I'm not saying that the samurai weren't honorable, but I'm just gonna come out and say what you're describing are ninjas. That is actually legitimately what you are describing, because
Yeah,
samurai.
I've heard that. I've heard that before. I know ninjas are more honorable than than a samurai,
No,
and it's true.
no, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here is a genuine thing. When and this is why this tenet is so important for the oath of the river, for uh the river quenches or drowns and the river seeks the sea always. Samurai, this is you described it perfectly. This is a Ronin. And the thing with Ronins were they were not exactly particularly well liked. And now the meaning has been lost to time, but the thing is that is that a lot of people would want samurai to have lords, because if they didn't, the number one pastime for samurai without lords was crime.
Okay, that's true because you gotta earn money and eat at the end of the day.
And
I,
your skill set is very, very, very suited towards doing very bad things. This is actively someone who doesn't have a lord and is actively going, I could take the easy way out and make a lot of money really quickly. And but they're actively going, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I shouldn't be a typical samurai who goes, you are an absolute bastard of a person. Clink, clink, clink. Never mind, you are worth redemption.
and on top of that, it also plays into the spell list that you get for the Oath of the Torrent Tenants of the River. You get Bless and Whelm Weapon, which okay, I'm gonna be 100% honest. I think that's unique to this book because I've never heard of Whelm Weapon before. But
It is unique. It is unique. Let me just quickly pull it up.
all right, I'll keep reading the
Uh,
rest of the list while you do that. So you also have like Fine Steed, so you can summon your moped. Lesser Restoration, always good. Water breathing and water walking, control water, freedom of movement, mass cure wounds, and submerge, which is another unique spell to this book. So everything revolves around the water, and that's. And not only does it allow you to control the water, like you would be doing like a Demon Slayer breath style, where you had your sword out. Breath of water, I'll be honest, I never watched Demon Slayer. That's about as much of the references I have, but it's still pretty nice. And you still get a lot of good utility spells like Lesser Restoration, Bless, always great early game. Mass Cure Wounds is fantastic for a paladin because they don't typically need to be the heal bot. This is definitely looking like it's going to be a lot more interesting.
yeah. Also, for Whelm Weapon, just really quickly,
Mm-hmm.
up to three. The material is a drop of seawater, so that makes sense for why they would have it. And up to three weapons of your choice you can see within range become enveloped by water. Roll a d4. For the duration of up to 1 minute concentration, any damage dealt by the targeted weapons is reduced by the number you rolled to a minimum of 1.
Oh, wait. So with this ability, I could like have a drop of seawater on my blade and then wrap my enemy's weapons in water jutsus and then just take them out with my sword.
You can remove their ability to do damage at all,
That's
because
good. Wow. Okay, that's really good. I like that.
and when you cast this spell using a spell slot of second level or higher, you can target 2 additional weapons for each slot level over first.
So it's 3 to begin with, 2 if I go 1 level spell slot higher, and then 4 if I go 2 additional spell slots higher.
Yeah. So you could go
Wow.
3, 5, 7.
Wow. I don't know how many spell slots this version of the Paladin gets, but like even at 3rd level spell slot, that's pretty freaking good.
They go up to 5. So
Ooh,
3,
that's a whole fortress right there.
yeah. And also there is the other spell that was mentioned, submerge.
Yeah,
So
what
it
does that
lasts
one
for
do?
this spell creates a magical link between a body of water within range and another body of water at any location within 500 miles on the same plane of existence. You must have seen or touched the destination body of water at least once before. For the duration, any creature can step into the target body of water and exit from the destination body of water using 5 feet of movement. Both bodies of water must be large enough for the creature attempting to pass through to become fully submerged. If either body of water isn't large enough for the creature to become fully submerged, there's a 25% chance the creature exits from a random body of water on the same plane of existence.
Wait, hold on a second. So basically, the paladin has mass teleportation?
Yes.
Okay, I'm fucking playing this class. If we ever do like fuck it. If I ever get to play a campaign, I'm making this. I don't care. Because you gotta understand something. Teleportation Circle is a great ability that wizards have. Granted, it's a bit of a pain to set up. For this one, it's just like, I remember that river that was 500 miles. I'll get back to that in a minute, but like, you remember a river, and if you're in a swamp area, you essentially be like, guys, I got a way out. You touch your sword to the puddle, and you can use 5 feet, and then just boom, you're instantly gone. That's, I mean, granted, it's 17th level, but that's really freaking good.
But you also do have to be fully submerged. If you don't, you roll a 1d4, and if you roll a 1, you just end up somewhere else on OboJima or whatever plane you are. Not the same country, not the same region, the same plane. So you could just end up on like a totally different planet and just be like, "Huh, where the fuck am I?"
Yeah, that is a risk, obviously, but honestly, I still love that spell. It's fantastic because I love I like the water theme, I love the teleportation, and 500 miles is fucking massive. Like, don't get me wrong on that. That is a huge. That's like the entirety of my state. Is 500 miles, probably more. I don't know. I haven't checked how big the state of Oregon is, but either way, no one's gonna fine you if you use that ability.
And I'm just laughing because it's like, ha ha, I live in Ontario where 500 miles is nothing.
It's still, but it's still a big warp. And let's, and so yeah, and wow, we're gonna spend like a whole 20 minutes on. I might, because I love this paladin class. I don't even like paladins as a player class because they're just so restrictive. But this one feels more at home for me. Speaking of channel divinity, at level 3rd, you gain 2 channel divinity options. Rushing Rapids. As a action, you can use a forceful wave of water to erupt outward at a 20-foot radius centered on you. Each large or small creature of your choice in the area must succeed a strength saving throw or be pushed 5 feet outside of it. Massive area of effect push. Okay. Blessed Pool. You speak gently yet courageous words that encourage your allies and heal them. Choose a number of creature up to twice your charisma modifier, minimum 2, and they basically get a healing potion for free. Nice. Okay. For channel divinity, not bad. Pretty good channel divinity options. Would you agree?
Yeah, the channel divinity I've always felt is very interesting where it feels like it's very much a monk style ability where it's just a case of a couple of things that don't seem particularly useful right away, but can then turn around and be absolutely incredible.
I like them too. They're pretty basic, but healing and being able to push stuff away 5 feet, it's not bad. Especially because you got to understand, as a separate resource that's not a spell slot. It's just It's just nice to have. So having healing without having to worry about spell slot manipulation is always good.
Yeah, it very much reminds me of like how do I say this? It it's very much a case of like just shoving people out of the way or healing them, which are two very simple actions, but when you get the chance to use them, you know that's going to be either in desperation or something needs to change.
Oop.
And I respect that. It's very interesting.
I respect it
Moving
too.
on to moving on to the aura of the river. That I love the paladin auras because you never know exactly when they're going to come into effect, but they always are there.
And this one's pretty
Uh,
unique.
uh, the area within 10 feet of you is considered difficult terrain for anyone that you don't designate. No action required. In addition, the first time you hit a large or smaller creature on the first turn with a melee attack, you can use your aura to move the target up to 10 feet to an unoccupied space you choose. At 18th level, the area within 30 feet is considered difficult terrain. So you basically just become a running river.
Pretty much. And I'm also noticing something kind of similar about the last couple of classes we talked about, and that it feels like a lot of this has to do with movement, because the monk has a lot of movement-based abilities, the paladin has a lot of movement-based abilities. Same with even the bard from the College of Masks; those had some movement abilities based into the mask what they were wearing. It feels like they really want to make combat, at least based on the mechanics of this book, feel more fluid in how they interact with the battlefield. So it gives it a more. This is going to seem like maybe they're taking the inspiration from Studio Ghibli, but basically, with Studio Ghibli, the movement of the pictures are so fluid that it feels like it's a constant stream of like action. And I think they're trying to recreate that here as well. It's just my own personal take, but I like the commitment to making the classes and the subclasses have unique feeling in them. And even if
Oh,
it's yeah, and even if it is just like movement, it's still pretty nice.
oh, absolutely. And then there's Shielding Spirit, where when you make a dex saving throw, you can use your reaction to have any damage you would take from the effect, so an automatic save, and then you can expend a spell slot to extend this benefit to nearby allies. So if you choose like choose a number of creatures within 10 feet of you equal to the level of the spell slot expended. The damage is it's an automatic save for them as well, which is huge for dex saves because spells like Fireball are dex saves. And getting an immediate save on that. Imagine throwing that in with like any dex based class. That's insane. So it's either with like evasion or whatnot, it's either you take no damage or a quarter damage because you're already having it with evasion.
And honestly, Dex is probably the most common saving throw in the entire game. I think the only one that matches it is probably strength saving throws for being knocked down and athletic challenges. But Dex is definitely the first one because of how many times you have to avoid magic, pitfalls, traps, jumping, and not missing the edge of it. So having Shielding Spirit save for Dex is a great idea. If it wasn't Dex, I don't think this would be as good of an ability because wisdom and charisma and intelligence do happen, but they are primarily for caster abilities. Not so much for just generalized stuff for the saving throw. So that's a really good
Especially
thing.
especially with it being within 10 feet, that says that this is an ability meant for the paladin to be like right there in the action.
Yeah.
And if it was anything but, it would be bad because it wouldn't be able to do what it needs to do.
And what I also like is that you can select it. So basically, depending on what spell slot you have, obviously it gets you pick up the number of targets. So if you're in the frontline fighters and there's only like two people besides you, you can expend a third level spell slot, which is if you're at 15, you should probably have a good chunk of them. And then that could definitely save you if your wizard decides to use fireball and burn the room down. I'm looking at you, Neffy.
Or looking at you, Neko, for control flames in the middle of a flammable room.
How in the hell we survived that session, I will never know. I really don't.
That was so funny because it's like I'm going to use control flames. This is a flammable room. Yes, I can absolutely control it. Cool. The whole room's on fire. What do you mean the whole room's on fire?
It wasn't even that hard. Like for those of you who don't know, we put a short up on YouTube and TikTok earlier where it was where our friend Neko is setting the room on, is trying to use fire. What was it? Bonfire? Yeah, it was bonfire.
It
To
was control. Yeah, bonfire and then control flame.
Yeah, because it was a dark room. And the last line of the spell, and I had to copy it for this moment, and it goes, this room and anything that is flammable that is not being worn catches fire. And you were in a room of costumes, which were definitely flammable and could catch on fire. And she goes, "Yeah, I did set the room on fire."
And it's like, how the fuck? And it's like, my character is doing a dumb thing, and then it's like, my character's not doing the dumb thing. How is my character not doing the dumb thing in the place where they're supposed to be doing the dumb thing?
Hang on, let me light this small candle I found. That's a bomb, Neko. Oh, don't worry, it's not gonna. Boom! Basically. So yeah, this would have definitely solved that problem. And the final capstone ability, and this is a very, very, very late capstone ability. You have to be level 20 to get this ability. Form of yeah.
Which every paladin is, by the way. We just want to make that very clear. This is not something special.
No. But like, what I'm getting at here is, you are never going to get this ability unless your DM says that it's going to be a 20th level campaign. So don't even think about it. Don't use it for building a class. You're never going to have this ability, because odds are you're either going to die before you hit level 20, or worst case scenario, you're probably going to have the party disband due to real life events. It's just going to happen, but for the sake of us being fair, we will read the ability. Form of the river. Starting at 20th level, you can manifest the powerful visage of a river spirit around your body as a bonus action. Let that sink in for a second. This is not an action. This is a bonus action that you get for 1 minute. You gain a swimming speed of 60 feet, and a walking speed is increased by 15, giving you 45. You have an advantage on all saving throws. I reiterate this. All saving throws for 10 rounds on a bonus action. And when you successfully move a creature with your aura, you can deal 2d8 bludgeoning damage to it. Okay.
Yeah,
this is almost broken if it wasn't so high level.
See, here's the thing that makes that absolutely incredible that most people may not realize right away, is that aura in question comes after you hit a larger, smaller creature with a melee attack. That's an additional 2d8 regardless of the damage you just did.
I know. And once you use this bonus action, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a 5th level spell slot to use it again. So you get 1 per long rest for free, and then it's a 5th level spell afterwards. Okay. I think that's fair. I'm sorry if the paladin player is not happy that they only get 1, but I think that has to be fair and balanced for the class. It's the only way an ability like this would be fair. That being said, she will never get this. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
It is absolutely amazing.
It is. It's a fantastic ability, but you will never be able to use it.
It's very much a case of you are either playing a level 20 thing right off the bat, or you, by some miracle, some unforsaken, ungodly miracle, are playing a full campaign where you go to level 20, and you for some reason decided not to multi-class and commit to this throughout the entire thing, and just you get this amazing ability that is just like the ultimate high. I am a river. Fuck you.
Yes. Because the best part is that it lets you decide what the vestige looks like as well. Because all it says is vestige of a river spirit. For all you know, you could describe it as, my vestige is a rampaging herd of horses, or mine is the Susanoo from Naruto, or those are the only 2 coming to my mind right now. But the point is that you can basically decide that. But again, I have to reiterate this. You will never get this ability in a normal campaign. It's not going to happen, because it's the capstone of the leveling cap, not just the capstone of the subclass. You and paladins and pure paladin is a pain in the ass to level. I'm sorry. Now, I will admit this one's a little bit easier to do than most. But you have to also but if you were playing any other paladin, you have to 1, get to level 20, 2, you can't break your oath, 3, you have to make sure that you have a build that supports this, 4, and this one's the big one, you have to make sure that how are you going to use it before the big bad guy? Because when you hit level 20, the end part of the campaign is right around that corner, so you'll maybe only get to use this one time. I only say this because never take the capstone ability into character creation. It is a death sentence to your character. Always look at everything to the road to get to that point yet.
Yep.
But I will say the submerge ability is a very good midway point, because I think getting to level 17, even though that would still be, once again, I'd have to get there purely as a paladin, which there is a reason why they are called lawful stupid.
It's just the paladin is either the best character in the party, or the one who the party just wants to go, hey, stupid, why don't you jump off the cliff? The monk did it.
Nah, I got something better. So, there was a short I was watching a while ago where there was I think it was like Pirates of Darkwater, or no, that's a TV show. It was like something Dark Tide. It was a YouTube short where they were playing like a live action campaign. And the two things I remember the most from that little clip was, one, the guy who was playing the bard died all the time, and he brought like 55 character sheets. So every time he died, he was just like, nope, we're keep going. He just brings the same character back. And the other one was that the paladin was like, let me get this straight. We need to do something bad, right? Yeah. Oh no, I think I hear a small child calling in the woods. I better go investigate, because I can't let someone like that be left alone. It would break my oath. At least if that's the case. And he just wanders off and lets the monk rogue do something evil. And that's basically paladins. They have to play by their tenets. Now this one's a little, like I said, easier, but 20 level. Oh my god, I could not do that. It's impossible. For me, at least. Anyway, I think I think the Oath of the River is the Oath of the River is pretty good. I like it. It's a good class, especially for a paladin. It does feel more Ronin, but I like it. I like it a lot. Now let's see what they did to the poor ranger.
Okay, before we begin, do you remember me talking about how the corruption itself feels like it's going to come up in the story itself later on?
Yes, I remember that.
This class is where I went, no, they're doing something with this. OboJima is on the brink of collapse. They have to be going in that direction with how they're saying this whole class. Because this class is the epitome of losing yourself entirely for gaining new power.
Boy, I hope the Rangers didn't get a raw deal again. So let's take a look at the Corruption Ranger. You have become infected by a mysterious illness. Well, that didn't take too long. Sorry, Rangers. One day you'll be loved. One day. And this isn't even me making fun of Rangers. I think I like bow and arrow classes. I just think they keep getting shit on by everyone.
But here's the thing. You get absolutely corrupted by the corruption. However, you are both cursed and empowered by the corruption's rotting, withering magic that's slowly taking you over bit by bit, replacing your own flesh with its unearthly power. So you are still you, somewhat. But here's the thing. Notice how every single class has like a really cool name, like Spirit Battery, Challenge Essence, Spirit of OboJima. Like all that stuff is like, that's really cool. Like all stuff that says to like the ability and whatnot, right?
Right.
First manifestation. This is not a subclass where you chose this. And even with warlocks, their abilities get names dictating the abilities. No, you are corrupted. This is how it appears first. Starting at 3rd level, the corruption within begins to manifest in combat. Whenever you take damage, you also receive a curse marker. If the damage was from a critical hit, you receive 2 curse markers instead. The markers will remain active until the end of your next turn, and the maximum numbers of curse markers you can accumulate at a time is 2. At a time is 2. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, all the curse markers you have gained are instantly consumed, dealing an extra 1d4 necrotic damage to the target for each curse marker consumed. Alternatively, you can use a bonus action to call upon your corruption to immediately gain the maximum number of curse markers available to you. When you use this ability, you can't gain more than your maximum number of curse markers. The number of curse markers you can accumulate at once increases when you reach certain levels: 3 at 5th, 4 at 11th, and 5 at 17th. Now, here's the thing that I read about this, because I've read other feats and whatnot similar to this. That is not the maximum that you can hold. That is the maximum you can get at once. So basically what it's saying is that for each person who attacks you, you can get up to 2 curse markers, which is insane.
So, okay, so basically, if I'm reading this right, at 3rd level, you can have a max of 2 curse markers, like you mentioned, and that gives your attacks a potential 2d4 of necrotic damage, which is 1d8, which is pretty good. And then you can also use a bonus action to immediately gain those curse markers. The thing is, I'm also noticing about this that it's not saying how many times I can use this before I have to basically take a short or long rest. So I could use potentially every turn, I could use the bonus action to pull on the corruption and get the curse markers. Not saying I would, I'm just saying it's not how I'm reading it.
That is absolutely correct. You are not misreading that in the slightest.
Okay, so it feels like, and as we all know, Garson apparently never reads the next paragraph and always comes up with a problem when he jumps to conclusions. This time around, given that every one of the class's subclass features is some form of manifestation, I'm going to hold off on my judgment until after we get through all of them, because I think that's the best way we're going to do this. Now, at
Then there's yeah. If I may,
you go ahead. You go ahead. You seem to know this one better than I do.
yeah. Second manifestation. You start to observe peculiar happenings within your own body. At times, you notice that your limbs and torso exhibit independent movements, seemingly acting of their own volition. When you make a strength or dex check, you can choose to replace the result with a number equal to 10 plus your ranger level. You can wait until after you roll the d20 before deciding to use this feature, but must decide before the GM says whether the roll succeeds or fails. You can use this feature a number of time equals to half your proficiency bonus rounded up, and you regain all expended uses when you finish your long rest. This is basically the bard, the eloquence bard, silver tongue ability, because you basically get a guaranteed, because again, uh if you're using this ability, you either get the roll being above uh 13, or you get a 13.
Oh, seems we're having some. There we go. Okay. No, and that's fine. And actually, as you get stronger, you might want to just use this instead of the Dex or Strength check because,
Yeah.
like,
Of course, you only get so many uses of it because of the proficiency bonus rounded up, but that's at lower levels, the DC's lower anyways. This matches with the challenge. And the thing is that sure, you get this ability, but when you're coming from a story perspective, that's horrifying because your body's moving on its own. What else is the DM going to make your body do?
You suddenly break out into dance. Wait, what? But no,
And
but yeah, no, I like that, and you're right. Uh,
yeah, then there's the third manifestation, which starting at 7th level, when you make a weapon attack against a creature, you can expend one curse marker to roll a d4 and add it to an attack roll. You get a free bless.
well, it's
You
not
can
really a free bless because you either have to use your bonus action at the beginning of your turn, which could potentially mess up some of your plays, depending on how your build is going, or you have to have a hit. But you could have a stored bless, so that's still not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's not like immediately free. It
it's not,
depends on the build.
yeah, but still having a bless almost always ready to go, that's insane. And that comes back to those curse markers where, yeah, sure, this ranger is going to want to get into the fight because they always want to do damage. They're going to want to take bits of damage so that they themselves can deal more damage. And so with this, they're basically going, "Hey, I have this anyways. I'm doing this anyways. Why don't I make my hits more likely to hit?" Additionally, whenever you take damage, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage taken equal to your ranger level. Once you reduce damage in this way, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. That's an immediate 7 points of damage gone right off the hop, going all the way up to 20 if you get there eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But even 7 points of damage, that is an insane amount of damage. And again, with the curse markers, it's not that you take damage. It's when it is curse markers whenever you take damage. Okay, so it's when you take damage, but you're reducing that damage. So if you're like, "Hey, I already have my curse markers right now and I don't really feel like taking another hit." You can just go, "I don't feel like taking damage right now. Fuck you."
Yeah, no, that's pretty
Now,
true.
yeah. Now here's the thing. Here is where I come into the reasoning of the corruption is going to destroy OboJima. And the ranger class says it outright. Fourth manifestation. At 11th level, your ailment is beginning to have side effects on your body. Gain one of the following ailments of your choice: graying vision. Your eyes weaken, and the world around you begins to lose some of its colorful luster. To adjust to your slowly worsening vision, you've gained blind sight out to a range of 15 feet. In addition, you automatically detect visual illusions if their intelligence check DC, investigation check DC, is less than or equal to your ranger spell save DC.
Hmm.
Failing lungs. Your lungs have begun to ache and your days are filled with excessive coughing. At times, you feel yourself gasping for air, and it's in those moments you've learned to steal another's breath. As an action, you pull your next breath from a creature you can see. The target falls prone and can't take reactions until the start of your next turn. There is no saving throw for that.
If I'm
Additionally,
yeah, I was
all
about to. I should read that next part because that's the one I wanted to bring up about.
all of your curse markers are consumed, dealing 1d4 necrotic damage to the creature for each marker consumed in this way.
Okay, so if I'm reading that right, does that basically double up on the curse triggers from automatically using the curse marks? Because if that's the
Yeah,
case, okay, so basically it turns. So at 11th level, you should have access to 4 of them. So 4 is. So basically 4d4s plus an additional 4d4s of damage. So we're looking at a
Yeah.
potential wow, and that's just as an action reaction combo.
Yep. Alternatively, you can give your breath to another creature. Whenever a creature you can see makes a dex saving throw, you can use your reaction to give it advantage on the saving throw and increase its speed by 15 feet until the start of your next turn. Or you could go with losing feeling. Numbness creeps into your muscles and bones and across your skin. The vibrancy of feeling gives way to a broad antagonism. Your hands and arms instead burn with a cold, ethereal flame which only you can see. As a bonus action, you can target a creature you can see within 60 feet of you, enveloping it with the same cursed flames. When you deal damage with your curse markers to a creature that has been enveloped by your flames, each curse marker deals 1d6 necrotic damage instead of 1d4. Once you use any of these features, once you use this feature, once you've chosen which one, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest.
Wow. All of them are pretty good. I'm not gonna. Well, okay. So if I had to rank them, I think failing lungs is number one. Losing feeling is number two, and graying vision is number three in terms of which one, in the order of which I would pick them if I had to make a pick. And because failing lungs is a bonus action reaction combo that could deal up to 8d4s of damage.
Yeah, it's insane. And then, of course, you have the fifth manifestation, the final one. Starting at 15th level, you gain the ability to call upon the corruption, which greatly alters your natural capabilities. As a bonus action, you can activate this feature, double your walking speed, increase your AC by 2, and make 2 additional attacks while taking the attack action. In addition, all attacks are treated as if you have the maximum number of curse markers accumulated. This effect The effects of this feature last until the start of your next turn. You can use this ability without negative effects once per long rest. If you use this feature a second time before finishing a long rest, in addition to the effects wearing off at the start of your next turn, you also suffer 1 level of exhaustion and immediately drop to 1 HP at the start of your turn. Once
Oh
you use the
boy.
feature a second time, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. This is what I mean by risk versus reward and storytelling in a class. This class is the epitome of what the fuck is going on.
Hey, we got a. Thank you, June. Appreciate it. Uh, we got a bit of a raid going on. Anyway, uh,
Ew.
but no, that's actually well. Okay, first of all, if you did use this a second time, I don't think I don't think you like there's any like the dropping to 1 HP is already pretty bad, but to also get exhaustion, which gives you disadvantage. You better make sure whatever you're fighting drops if you use this a second time because you are not getting it because you're out for that fight afterwards. But it's
Yeah,
pretty fucking good.
if you're using it the second time, that is desperation kicking in.
It is. Or you find the big bad guy and you absolutely have to drop him because what essentially this is you get 3 attacks, an additional AC of 2, um, and depending on and it's at a 15th level, which means you could have 5 classes, 5 levels in another class, and you could potentially be getting like rogue sneak attack criticals, 3 of them before your opponent has an action, and then expend all the curse marks, which you got as a bonus action because that's what I'm reading
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah, it is absolutely insane, and this class, as I said, is the epitome of a class that is built for this story, and if you play it, you are with the twitches coming in on their own, you're failing ailments. This is a class where if you are playing it, you are saying to the DM, I am part of this story. I am not sitting on the sidelines. I am part of intricate story moments. I am part of the main theme. This is not a class for someone who's just going to sit there. And again, there's nothing wrong with being this type of player, but this is not the class for the player who just wants to, enjoy sitting and waiting for combat, or enjoys or just wants to be there for the role play and whatnot. You are there for everything. This is the class where you're saying to the DM, I know we have talked about where this story is going. Let's make this personal.
And I do like that. And actually, this feels like a fun ranger class. It feels like a mix of the ill rigor with ranged weaponry because of the curse mark situation. I like it. It's a good class. It feels like it can result in either using any type of ranger, regardless if it's using bow and arrows, like the artwork is depicting, or even melee attacks. Somehow, I think this might be better as a melee ranger than as a ranged ranger because you can have because if you get the dual wielding attack, so if you had dual wielding, the feat that gives you lets you make an offhanded attack with your main attack, offhand attack, main attack, offhand attack, main attack, offhand attack, spend all the curse marks. That would probably drop any low level creature without having just by using the fifth manifestation once. It's definitely gonna eat up a good chunk of the big bad guys or the boss's HP. I can't deny that's pretty freaking good. That's really, really good.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this. I absolutely love this class. And I,
Oh,
Garson, we
yeah.
both know that I'm a sucker for this story classes, and even with the Sunday campaign, I go hard with the story.
You do.
This would be the class. This would be the class that I would walk up to you and go, Garson, if we're doing OboJima, this is the class that I'm playing. And you would probably have a moment of like, shit.
Well, I like it, but I'm gonna be 100% honest. I really want to talk about the next one more because it's the fucking Postal Brigades class. It's the Waxwork Rogue. I'm sorry.
That's fair.
My
It's just
all right.
this class.
Let me just say this. My final thought about the Corrupted Ranger. The Ranger is great.
Yeah.
Great class, a lot of story potential, and it feels like it's meant to be one of those pure classes. In fact, I actually think this is something you could do. You could multi-class into this and have it have a deeper meaning than if you started out as it. Because like I said, you only have to get to 15th level. So you could go from level 1 to 5 as a normal class, something happens, you get corrupted, and then the rest of your level is the corruption spreading. If you ask me, that's a stronger story than starting off as this.
Yeah. It's just this class makes me so happy. This class in particular makes me it would be the class that I would play for OboJima. Because sure, there's the edge factor and whatnot, but there's also the whole like, hey, shit's not right, and this character very much has the case of what happened, where did you come from, what's going on. This would be the character where every other character is going through their own personal side arc and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then this character shows up and everyone goes, oh fuck, we're in danger. We're in trouble.
Or you're that one guy who ate something at the Goody Mart.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so let's talk about
Or
let's go on to the Waxwork Rogue.
yeah.
So, the Waxwork Rogues have a long history. Basically, they are repair guys with wax. Which, by the way, I find it weird that we have now had 2 books where it covers wax play as a fucking mechanic. Which I would have which is the whole 2 nickels bit. It's not a lot, but it's weird that back to back there were wax based classes in each one.
Hey Garson.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do a monk rogue next time. Guess which 2 classes I'm taking.
The waxy ones.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
It's gonna really stick, you know?
I just love. So I'm gonna go off on a little bit of a rant here because I love. Because first of all, the reason why I want to talk about this is it's our old friends, the postal brigades, the postal knights again.
Oh, god damn it.
Well, I'm sorry. I wanted to have fun, but okay. The reason I like rogues are always interesting because they typically do one thing. Have you tried stabbing them really hard with the pointy bit? That's rogues in a nutshell. It's just, how do we stab you really hard with the pointy bit? Chitter has disappeared on me. Okay. And so,
No, I'm right here.
I didn't hear you say anything, so I didn't know.
Sorry.
But,
Um, yeah, keep going.
so basically, this seems like a cross between the Arcane Trickster Rogue and the Spirit Fighter from earlier. They basically they don't get a whole lot of benefits as opposed to other rogues because typically rogues are allowed to do a lot more on their turn than most because they don't have any resource management to deal with per se. But I do like the fact that in this case it looks like they're repairing things with their candles. Mostly, of course, I do like the fact that they're also riding a moped. So level 3, they gain access to dancing lights and produce flame as cantrips. That's fine.
I'm gonna be entirely honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like a warlock rogue.
How so?
Wax enhancements. Those are just invocations.
It's true. It's true. I can definitely see that being the case for the waxy rogue. Especially because like if you look at the enchantments, they're like, actually, where are they? Ah, here we go. You get blooming lights. Spend 1 wick point to ignite a dark green candle, which burns in a smaller hue. And wait, that's just a torch. Oh, creatures in the candles light are hidden from divination magic.
That's that's pretty good.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, I kind of imagine it's like one of those candles you like to keep mosquitoes away. Hang on. Gotta light this. Can't have this. Can't have the barbecue without the divination candle. Those pesky wizards are keeping an eye on us. We don't want them predicting what's going to happen at the barbecue. Um,
Fair enough.
last 1 hour. Bocha glue wax. So Bocha glue is a delicate mixture of the finest waxes available in a collection of ingredients known only to the waxwork rogue. When enchanted properly, it can temporarily hold any 2 objects together. So glue. As an action, you can spend 1 wick point to create an adhesive bond between 2 objects using a small amount of glue. The 2 objects remain bound together for 24 hours, at which point the enchantment fades and the 2 objects are separated. A creature within reach of the object can use an action to make a strength athletics check to end against your enchanted save DC, breaking the bond early on a success. Chitter, I'm not gonna lie, the more I'm reading this, the more I feel like this class is not gonna be a whole lot of fun. It's just gonna be me making fun of jokes.
Okay. I'm going to say this.
Mm-hmm.
This class is very much the epitome of a warlock rogue. This is you picking invocations that you feel fit either the party or your own needs. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that this is a rogue who very much is the epitome of jack of all trades. They have their toolbox, they have what they can do, but they're not going to be legendary. They're not going to do a whole bunch of things all at once. And the thing is that with this going on, is that that's just what this class is.
Mm-hmm.
It is an amazing class story-wise, could have amazing arcs, but mechanically, you're picking and choosing what you're doing based on the story. You're not picking and choosing this based on what works best. And that can be really, really, really difficult to judge on a tier list because every single ability has a use case, but not all of them are immediately obvious. So one we might call bad right now could end up being a game changer for a campaign down the line.
You know, that's actually a very mature way of handling it. I think you're absolutely right in that regard. And again, you hit the nail on the head. That's not a bad thing about the class in of itself. It's different, but sometimes you got some.
It's a class where it's a game hard to make a trailer of, but it's a lot of fun to play. Sure, you can't hype it up traditionally, but that doesn't make it a bad game, if that makes sense.
No, not at all. In fact, I think we obviously can't go through all the enchantments because that would take up at least 25 minutes because there's like 2.5 pages of them. But so let's just highlight a couple of them I think are kind of cool. For example, the glue one it's glue. Don't really know how else to describe it. I cast Elmer's glue at the owl bear and I glue a goblin to it. Why are you doing this? Why? Because I'm gluing a goblin to an owl bear, and then I'm gluing the goblin to these barrels of TNT, and then I'm going to. Okay, well that's definitely crazy. But then you also have stuff like, well, there's something I would pick immediately: detonate, where you basically can throw one of your candles as a freaking stick of TNT.
Yeah.
And so basically each creature on a 20-foot radius centered on the point to make a dex saving throw, they take 2d6 fire and 2d8 thunder damage on a failed saving throw, or half as much on a successful one. That's actually a lot of damage for a 5th level ability. I mean, you have to burn 3 wick points, but it's essentially just like, what's the potential damage? It's like 12 plus 60, so 28 damage potentially on an ability that also ignites everything and spreads fire damage.
Yeah, this is, as I said, this is a class where you're gonna pick things based on what you need the class to be. If you need it to be support, you're gonna pick ones like the blooming light, candle pop, like flooding abundance, or shielding seal. Like there are, if you need it to be a damage one, you're gonna pick detonate, or let's see here, what else there that, or spark shower, or waxlings, or wick whip. There's going to, whatever you need it to do, that you can do that. And also, for example, with advanced enhancement, it's giving you a list right off the bat of like, hey, I don't want to pick anything. I just want the bare minimum. I want to play the default. Boom, there's your list right off the bat. Blooming light, burning delay, candle pop, delicacy, maker's mark, shielding seal, and waxlings. Kaboom. There's your basic list to go off of. So even if you get overwhelmed, it gives you a list to go off of, which is amazing for that.
So there is one enhancement I do want to talk about because I think this is really kind of cool. Consuming flame.
Oh,
Yeah, so when you see a hostile creature within 60 feet of you casting a spell, you can use your reaction and spend 3 wick points to quickly ignite a candle and cast counterspell. If the spell was successfully countered and was 3rd level or lower, you can spend 2 more wick points to capture the spell, and then while you're holding the candle, you can use that spell basically. And you can hold it for 24 hours. Now, I don't know, so we've talked about this before. 3rd level is like the sweet spot for spells because that's where most of the good ones are. And the fact that you can steal a spell and then hold on to it for 24 hours is pretty good because we don't get a whole lot of spell thief stuff in the game.
also, Garson,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna hate me for what I'm about to say.
What now? What did I forget?
No, this isn't something you forgot. This is just something that I thought of that would be absolutely fucking evil.
Oh no, what's that?
Like, consuming flame. I steal your revivify and use it for my own purposes.
Aha! I took your revive. Wait, what? And now I break the candle open and bring my monk back. Wait, hold on. How'd you do that with a candle? Shut up. Hold on.
That's like that's like the player equivalent of the DM who's like of the player going like, I'm going to cast Revivify on my player. Ha, my BBEG cast counter spell. Oh, so you really are just a son of a bitch.
No, you know what this is? This is the equivalent of the big bad guy's trying to bring his minion back. You capture it in a candle, and you use it on the party member who died the last turn, and all you can say is, okay, I know this is rich coming from me, but your powers are bullshit. because I'm the more I think about this, he's doing all of this with candles. Fucking candles. And the more I think about how absurd that is, it just makes me laugh because I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, hold on a second. You how did you do this with candles? I know how because I'm a rogue. You're not even a wizard and you just found out how to do this with candles? Yes, if we go to a Bed Bath & Beyond, I promise you this, we will never have to worry about anything ever again. If we go to the Yankee Candle store, oh, shit's going down. Oh God, you better pray we only need vanilla bean. If I have to use Somerset Mist, we are doomed. Oh my God. So, you know me, I like to play jokey characters a lot, like, that have gimmicks. This is me to a T. I would just be like some guy is like, do not fret, I have just what we need. And I just pull out a big candle, and I go, is that a candle? Yes, but not just any candle. If I light this, it will detonate and blow up the wall. I'm sorry, what? Yes. Fortunately, I brought 5 more of these things.
God
what?
Damn it.
What? Yep. And we're going to string them together on 1 wick. Let's do this.
God damn it, Garson. I love that.
We're going to quickly wrap up the Waxwork Rogue, because we're nearing the end of the classes, actually. I think we only got is Sorcerer, Wizard, and Warlock left.
Yeah.
Damn, that was actually a lot faster than last time, because we had to go through, like, what, 3 different classes for each one?
Yeah. The OboJima seems much more like a complete source book. I'd say the Kinks and Cantrip wasn't, but it very much feels like the focus is that this is part 1 of something, where the next part is the full adventure, if that makes sense.
I'm looking forward to that a lot. Anyway, so back to talking about candles. Come on, you gotta admit, this is why I like this class a lot, because it is kind of like, I read it partially, and then I assumed something different, but the more I think about it, it's like, alright, men, everyone, our party is getting ready to go into a dungeon now. We don't know if we're going to survive, but the big bad guy is in there. We have to stop him from opening the portal to the Dark Realm. All right, let's do a quick check and make sure everything is ready, okay? Miles the Paladin, have you prayed to your deity? Yes, I've prayed, and he is going to give us guidance, and he is prepared to offer us aid in our time of need. Good. Marquis the Warrior, are you prepared to run in there with your axe and take most of the hits? You will be in frontline fight. That is true. I am prepared. I will rage, and I will smash them with my hammer and axe. And then I will do horrible things to them and hit. Yeah, that's okay. We got that. Tim, did you bring your staggers? No, but I brought these candles.
What?
Tim, why did you bring the candles? You're the rogue. Your job is to stab people. Yeah, but I wasn't feeling it. I brought candles. Why did you bring candles? There's a god on the other side of that door who's planning to destroy the world. But candles? Well, Tim, I don't think we're coming back from this alive. You doubt the power of the candles, huh? Yes, very much so. Sorry. Anyway, burn cycle.
It's very much a case of what the fuck is going on, while also being incredibly competent at the exact same time.
Exactly. So let's look at the 2 last abilities. Burn cycle. This is like enhanced sneak attack. Basically, When you deal sneak attack damage on your turn, you can spend a wick point to deal extra fire damage in addition to the weapons damage. The extra damage is 1d6 for each wick point spent. So you can spend up to 4 wick points and deal a massive sneak attack critical damage of an additional 4d6 of damage, plus the sneak attack bonus, plus hitting them with the weapon damage, among any other bonuses. Yeah, this is kind of like what we were talking about last week with the fighter being able to like just smash someone with that imbued weapon ability. This is probably the more direct version of what I was thinking of, but it still caps it at 4d6, which is pretty good. I think that's okay for a late game ability.
Yeah. And then there's the advanced enhancements, which very much is a case of like, hey, here are the abilities that are the defaults, and you get extra shit with them. And if you don't have them, well, here you go. You can have one of them for free. You're not getting this ability for nothing.
Okay, Chitter, I'm sorry. I'm just going back to what we talked about when you mentioned earlier about the monk and the rogue combo now.
Yep.
Okay. I really want to play that now because I want to imagine like I'm using my wax, like, oh my god, he's using his wax. What is he making? Is that a candle? Yes, but it's not just any candle. It is an explosive candle. Wait, how? Boom! Like just conjuring up TNT and throwing it. I'm sorry. I'm trying to take this seriously, which says a lot about this show because I think the only time we ever took it seriously when it was like kinks and cantrips and back when we were talking about the more serious kinks, but this is just like I fucking can't. I can't take this seriously, and I don't think I want to. I think that's what makes me love this class even more, is that this does not take itself seriously.
Yeah, because at 17th level, go ahead and read that one, and you'll blow your fucking mind.
At Spirit Flame, at 17th level, you learn to craft a specialty candle made of pink wax. Oh dear god. As a bonus action, you can ignite this candle, which burns for 1 minute. As long as the burning candle is on your person, you gain the following effect. Wick point of your enchantments is reduced by 1. You are immune to fire damage. Fuck you, red dragons. Spirits have disadvantage on attack rolls against you. Fuck you, Orzhov, I guess, and ghosts. And if you fall prone while the burning candle is on your person, you must succeed a DC 15 saving throw, or the candle is extinguished early. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. I'm gonna need a minute. I'm gonna need a minute. I'm gonna need a minute.
You good?
No, I'm not. Because this is the least roguey rogue ever. Because imagine it like this. Again, this goes back to your powers are bullshit from the line from Alucard. This is essentially, wait a minute. How are you not burning alive right now? Because I lit this candle. What? What do you mean you lit a candle? Because I lit this one candle that I'm holding. You can't burn me. How? What is that thing made out of? Wax. Pink wax. And that's it. No, I refuse to believe that you have developed the ability to persist burning alive from a candle. That's nothing. I also learned how to turn dynamite into a candle. You want to? And on top of that, I also learned how to string them together to create a long chain of exploding candles. And I have a moped. I think the boss would explode trying to figure this out. If it's like the bad guy is a wizard who like specializes, it's like trying to summon a fireball, and he's just like, "Oh, you don't run, huh? You're brave, not just brave." And you just light the candle. I'm prepared. Okay, fireball. Is that all you got? Oh my god. I'm sorry. I'm breaking. I can't get through this without laughing. This one breaks me. This one breaks me in a funny ass way because it's just nothing of this makes any goddamn sense. And I know it's a fantasy game. It doesn't have to. But how the hell did the rogue learn how to basically, through trial and error, I found that by igniting this tiny birthday candle, I've become immune to fire.
Exactly.
You're not even going to argue with this. All right. Great class. Love it. Stupid as hell.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Right. Okay, let's go into the bloodline Oni sorcerer. So, sorcerers. Here we go. So, this is akin to like the draconic bloodline sorcerers of 5th edition, wherein your magical source comes from a bloodline connection to an Oni. Not a dragon this time, but I kind of like that. I think that there is a lot of room to include demons into sorcerer builds that you don't normally get when it comes to the bloodline aspect of it. Because, as we all know, wizards learned how to have magic, sorcerers were born with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it even says it here in the Arcane Prison. Trapped inside you is the essence of the first Oni, passed down through its children and sketched across the land in a treacherous lineage. As you grow in strength, so does the spirit with you. It desperately wishes to bubble to the surface, and it does so when you're at your weakest. At first level, you gain the trait of the Oni, which manifests as you expend sorcery points. Each Oni trait becomes available to you based on how many sorcery points you are missing from your total. And that's actually unique. Chitter, what do you know about sorcerers?
Sorcerers are very much the class that basically their power comes from themselves. Their power is very difficult to put into a story beyond the backstory. Because unless you're actively going to ask the DM to include it, it's very difficult to get it unless you're willing to work for it.
That is a good interpretation, and you're absolutely right on that. Because the problem that a lot of sorcerers have is that they don't really feel like they belong in part of the story, because a lot of what happened to them to get their power came before they were even born. However, what I like about this is that as you play more of the sorcery point meta magic situation with your character, you gain manifestations of the Oni. But those traits actually play into how the different powers work. So what that means is that obviously sorcery points are a big deal as they allow you to use meta magic, regain spell slots. You're going to burn through a good chunk of them. But as you do, you gain more and more demonic abilities. So for example, if you use one sorcery point, just one, your eyes shimmer, you get the eyes feature. As an action, you can activate your innate ocular charm, and for 1 minute, you have advantage on all charisma checks directed at one creature of your choice that isn't hostile towards you, provided it can see your eyes. When the effect ends, they have to make a wisdom saving throw against your spell DC. On success, they realize that you use magic to influence its mood and become hostile towards you. Okay. It's very easy to use one meta magic point super early on, or just use it to regain a spell slot. Then you have this until you regain your sorcery points on a long rest. So this build actually incentivizes you to use your sorcery points more I would say liberally than if outside of like just to gain these extra benefits, which I think is really cool. Now, as we go, obviously the more you use that, it's going to have an effect on you as well. But just having you get the eyes regardless of how many points you're missing, but that's great. So just automatically you can charm someone for free. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you also gain horns if you use 2 to 4 sorcery points. You gain horns, which rapidly grow just out of your forehead. And when casting a cantrip that requires you to make a melee or ranged spell attack, you can instead make a melee spell attack using your horns, channeling the spell through them. I guess you could say you were a bit horny. When you hit a character with a cantrip cast this way, the target takes an extra 1d6 pierce damage. Additionally, when a hostile creature movements provoke an attack of opportunity, you could use your reaction to cast the cantrip at the creature using your horns rather than making an opportunity attack. Okay, that's really good.
Yeah.
All right, because obviously attacks of opportunity, they happen, but hitting someone with a bow staff is just not going to do a whole lot of damage. But attack of opportunity and use Ray of Frost on them, or Firebolt, or Ray of Sickness, those, that's pretty good. And on top of that, you also get 1d6 of piercing damage. So now you've become more of a melee build. So maybe you want to take like maybe magical weapon. Maybe you want to consider doing something that gives you like an ability to enchant your weapon itself. The point is that that's really good. Now, it has to have a spell casting time of 1 action, and it can only target 1 creature, but like I said, Ray of Frost, Firebolt, Ray of Sickness, Lightning Bolt, I think those are all great options there. And have those be able to cast again as opportunity attacks, fantastic. When you have...
Yeah.
did you want to... so did you want to add anything to that?
No, not really. But what makes it interesting, I will say this.
Mm-hmm.
Something that goes unnoticed with sorcerers a lot of the time and has kind of become a joke is the fact that the sorcerer's minor skill is their constitution. Because why improve your constitution when you have a freaking D6? This one kind of takes it in the advantage of, hey, if you're going to improve your constitution, you get more hit points healed back for the skin ability, which is fascinating.
Yeah. And the best part about the skin ability is that all you have to do to get that benefit is to be missing 5 sorcery points and cast a spell at first level. And here's another thing. Let's once again call on the great magic that is meta magic. All praise to the meta magic. Meta magic is God. It is the best form of magic in the game. Wizards can eat a dick. Same with warlocks. We do not like those two. They are bad. They are not meta magic users. But let's say I twin dispel. Twin meta magic. Whenever you cast a spell of first level or higher. So twin meta magic, double up on I think Scorching Ray. No, not Scorching Ray. I would quicken the Scorching Ray like I usually describe this as. Now I'm casting it as a bonus action, so I will get this trade-off for the skin. Each one hits. I don't know if the whole Scorching Ray counts as a spell, or each individual.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't get multiple hits off of Scorching Ray. But if I twinned like a Firebolt, I'm casting 2 versions of that spell, which do count as 2 different spells. So I could, in theory, get what's the amount back? You regain number of hit points equal to your spell level. Okay, no, the Firebolt's a cantrip, so it'd have to be a level 1 spell. Witch's Bolt. Let's go with Witch's Bolt. That's a good example. I twin the Witch's Bolt, hit 2 enemies with it. That's 2 levels. I get 1 hit point back for each one that hits. No, just from the cast. It doesn't have to hit. I get 2 hit points back from that, plus my Constitution modifier twice, which if it's my second biggest still, it's probably a +3. So I'm healing 8 damage from using 1 meta magic point and using 1 spell level. That's just great, because I already don't have a whole lot of magic back anyway. But...
Yeah.
Amisis says I'm cooking, yes. But that's pretty nice. And then... and I like this. This is probably my favorite version of the Sorcerer ever, because... as you play the Sorcerer, you gain additional benefits that shift you from a ranged caster to a melee caster. So it's actually, and that's really good, because think of it like this. A lot of the times when casters run out of spell slots, they either have to just rely solely on cantrips, or they have to find some way to replenish their abilities. In a fight, you really aren't going to be able to replenish, so you have to rely on low-level cantrips. Now with this build... I can essentially become like, I slowly shift from range to melee, and I don't lose any benefit, which is really nice. And it actually incentivizes me to build Charisma and Constitution as my spellcasting modifiers, instead of like Intelligence or Wisdom. Now, I don't know. Shut up.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The Sorcerer is very much a case of a class where if you don't understand it, you think it's just lazy. But if you do understand it, it's very powerful in the story. It can be a DM's best friend or DM's worst enemy.
That is true. And quickly going over the other 2 traits, we have Tongue. With every incanted. So basically, for every spell that has a verbal component, you can target a creature. You can use your bonus action to cause the target to recoil in fear. The target has to make a Wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. On a fail save, the target must use its reaction, if available, to move up to half its speed away from you or fall prone. Your choice. So that's not playing into the melee part of it, but let's think of it like this. Cantrip, Firebolt, twinned it, shooting off 2 people, use the tongue ability, make one of them fall prone. Now I have advantage on them. And I still haven't hit them yet because it's using my reaction and a bonus action to make them fall yet, so the spell's still going on the stack. Or I make them run away and then provoke an opportunity attack from somebody who's nearby. Because this does trigger opportunity attacks. Which also, if they're close to me, now I'm using the horns option to opportunity attack using the cantrip again.
Exactly.
And then the last ability is the hair, which your hair turns into a shocking wide, stretches to the ground as it grows on your back. You just get a +2 to AC. That's fine. That's fine. I don't know if it's necessarily worth losing 15 spell slots, but again, the shift from range caster to melee caster, you want that bonus AC. And by the time you run out of those 15 sorcery points, you're probably using just cantrips at that point.
Yeah. So it is absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we have Ogre Manipulation. This lets you make manifest any of your Oni traits, regardless of how many spell slots you're missing, all praise to the meta magic, as a bonus action. You gain one of the Oni traits you could normally obtain through expenditure of sorcery points and draw it out early. That trait lasts for 1 minute, and you lose it if you haven't gained the trait by normal means in that time. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again to a long rest. That's pretty good. I could use this to pretty much guarantee that I would get access to the armor bonus, or I would probably either want the horns or the hair with that one, because those two are the one. Well, actually, probably more hair, because that's 15 or more sorcery points. Taking that long time would take forever to basically happen naturally, but to have the +2 armor class for about 10 rounds, that's pretty good. That's like, what, mage armor, but for free?
Yeah, pretty much.
So, great. All I gotta do is spend 15 sorcery points to get that, and then that's really kind of all that one does, is it lets you just pull out a trait early. Tongue or hair early is great. I love the fact that you could get those before having to spend all those sorcery points. I think that would probably be the only 2 I would use that on, but like I said, getting those early, never a bad thing. And then speaking of the traits, because that's what this class is all about, it's the traits. 14th level, Boiling Power. Your Oni traits grow in strength. The following changes apply to your trait. In addition to the benefits you normally have, you learn Zone of Truth spell, which you can cast without expending a spell slot. You can cast it only on one creature of your choice within 60 feet of you is affected by the spell, and they have to make a saving throw against the spell at the start of each turn, provided they can see your eyes. The spell ends early if the target can no longer see your eyes, so all they have to do is blink. But hey, that's okay. The horns. Okay. This is the broken one. The extra damage dealt by your horns increases to 1d12, on top of the cantrip, on top of any other bonuses.
That's just nuts.
Yeah, for free, because I think around 14th level, isn't Fireball doing like 1d10 at this point?
Something like that, I think.
So let's say 1d10 plus 1d12, so 22 damage on a cantrip melee attack.
Hi, would you like to proceed over to the Death Avenue, please?
No. Hi, my name is Garza. Have you heard the tale of the almighty metamagic and how it can grant us the horns to deal damage to our enemies?
Oh, god damn it.
No, I'm making that into our shirt. If we ever have merchandise, Praise Be to Metamagic is going to be one of our shirts. You can tell when Chitter's just tired, and she's just tired of my bullshit.
So, Garson.
Yeah?
Let's see how much I can drive you insane tomorrow, because you have just given me free permission to do that.
Yeah, well, don't forget, I'm also driving you insane tomorrow, too. Anyway, whenever you cast a spell at first level or higher, you regain a number of hit points equal to twice that spell level, plus your constitution modifier. So around this time, you should have 5th level spells, so you could potentially heal up to 10 HP, plus your constitution modifier for just casting a spell. It doesn't even need to hit, which,
That is,
what is that, like
yeah,
healing
yeah,
word?
yeah, something like that.
And that's just for free. That's free.
Yeah, it's insane.
And then tongue. When you can activate the tongue trait using a spell slot at 5th level or higher, in place of that trait's normal effect, you can instead cause the target to tremble in fear, becoming hyperfixated on you. The target's passive wisdom perception score is reduced to 5, and it takes a -5 penalty to its AC against all attacks that aren't made by you. The effect lasts until the start of your next turn. Hey, look at me. Look at me. All right, now everyone hit him with sticks.
Look at my tongue.
Not only that, like, you can just have the rogue sneak behind them and go, stab, dead, moving on.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Also, Garson, just really quickly,
Uh-huh.
I'm looking at the next two. I think they're better saved for next week because they're absolutely insane.
All right, we'll finish off with the sorcerer then. And lastly, the last one we're going to talk about right now is transformation. The capstone ability of the sorcerer class of the Oni bloodline. My god, my meta magic boner is going really hard right now. God damn. Oh yeah. Sweet meta magic. I love you. I'm sorry, what were we talking about? Oh, right, the class. Anyway, beginning at 18th level, you can fully embody the fable visage of your demon ancestor without needing to exhaust your sorcerer powers. As an action, you can instantly manifest all of your Oni traits, regardless of how many sorcery points you're missing. While manifesting your Oni traits this way, you gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks, and you can't be charmed or frightened. The effect lasts for 1 minute, after which you lose any traits you haven't gained by normal means in that turn. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you spend 5 sorcery points to use it again. Oh, my nipples are so hard right now. Oh my god, yes. I'm not even hiding it, folks. I'm not even hiding it.
I'm glad? Question mark.
Oh, come on. I've heard you say worse anyway. No, okay. You're just like, Garson, shut up anyway. But no, think of it like this, okay? At the start of combat, you essentially you get the overclock button. You're now in your full Oni form. You not only get all the bonuses from the traits, including the +2 from the hair, the extra benefit, because remember, this is happening at 18th level. You got the boiling power abilities already. So you got the horns, the skin regeneration, the tongue that makes it so everyone else has an additional -5. Everyone else can hit for basically an additional +5 to hit because their AC is now focused only on you. The eyes that give you Zone of Truth, which, granted, that one's kind of meh, but you know what? They all can't be winners. But
Zone of Truth is insane for like a story-based campaign.
oh no, that part's fine. I'm just saying combat, because you wouldn't use any of that. You wouldn't use the transformation ability unless you were in combat.
True, but also, to be fair, eyes are active no matter what.
Right, that is true. And that's why the eyes are really good. I'm just saying, like, the eyes can basically charm someone for free at level 1. When you hit 14, they give you Zone of Truth for free. And go ahead.
The terrifying part about that is that charm means that they can't hit you. Zone of Truth then means like charm is basically like, hey, you're super friendly, I like you and whatnot. Then you cast Zone of Truth, so not only do they like you, they're inclined to tell you the truth,
And that's for free.
not just and not just in like a hand wavy, like, oh well, it could mean this, like no false, like there's obviously the no falsities within Zone of Truth, but then it comes out to, oh shit, this person is actively like, hey, They're friendly, they're nice. I want to help them as much as possible.
And that's for free. So that's
Yeah.
so don't get me wrong. I love this is probably now my favorite sorcerer build because essentially what it is that it covers the biggest weakness sorcerers have ever had, and that is what do we do when we can't cast magic? Because draconic bloodlines typically they have resistance to certain types of elemental magic. Tempest sorcerers, they typically have like more. They can draw on the elements to get their sorcery points back, but again, it depends on what the DM's depicting. Here, what you're essentially doing is as you cast your magic and you're using it, like you slowly shift from long range caster nuker to close range assassin. And every trait that you get along the way is perfect for that. Because by the time you did use 15 or more sorcery points, you probably don't have any spell slots left. And that means that you now get that bonus to AC. Combine that with stuff like mage armor, or maybe some armor that gives an increased defense if you're not wearing any. You could easily hit 18 on that one. When you have transformation, you now have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks. Around 18th level, there's probably going to be some more magical attacks than non, but it's a factor, and you get two status immunities in Frighten and Charm, which are very common. And you still are able to use magic as your primary damage tool because the horns, when they deal them opportunity attack, you basically, when you hit a creature with a cantrip cast this way using your horns, they get an additional 1d6 or an additional 1d12. And you get to, and so basically, how it's really nice when you are able to, like, I know this is me gushing, but Ray of Frost as an opportunity attack, if it lands the secondary condition, can devastate some enemies because now they're slowed. You hit them for damage. It's probably dealt at least 1d8 of damage plus 1d12. That's 20d8 on an opportunity attack. I love this. I absolutely love this, and that's not even messing with the core sorcerer stuff with the meta magic, being able to use meta magic to like twin, quicken, zone of safety cast, so that AOE effects don't affect your party members. This is amazing. I love this. This is like, oh, I want to play this class so much. You can tell I love sorcerers, but this is me like this is a different type of sorcerer, but it's a fun ass sorcerer. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the kind of sorcerer where you're like, hey, this can work. This can be amazing. This can be everything. And it's just, it's great.
Mm-hmm. And then you can take certain feats that allow you to improve your melee damage. Like, for example, what's the one that you no longer have disadvantage on close quarters attacks? Like, what is that? It's like a feat that lets you. I don't know. I'm thinking, but it's basically the feat that lets you. So basically, as you get closer, you wouldn't lose this. You wouldn't have disadvantage on spell casting for close range combat.
Spell snipe? No, it's not spell sniper. Something like that. You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
Oh! Man, now that you mentioned spell sniper, I just thought of something.
Oh, good grief!
No. Hey, come on! I got my turn now. You gushed earlier about the corruption ranger. This is me gushing. Me, meh. But no, spell sniper. That affects your cantrips, right?
Yeah.
Well, the horn attack still counts them as cantrips. Doesn't mean they aren't melee attacks.
Fair enough.
So that means that you now. So that means. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. If I can. I don't have disadvantage, and if I hit them with the melee attack, that means I can roll a 19 or 20 to get a critical.
God damn. That is amazing. It is. This class is insane.
Yeah. No. Praise be to meta magic, obviously. But
anyway,
sorry, I could gush about this for another 45 minutes. I'm not even lying, but we're not going to do that to you folks because that's boring as hell. Anyway, but it looks like we only got two more classes left: the Lantern Warlock and the Origami Wizard, which I think is pretty cool. And then we're done with the classes, so we'll have some backgrounds. And then the one thing I do want to talk about next week, if I can scroll down and show this to you guys real quick. Hang on a second. Let me just scroll down. It's the potion brewing section. Wow, there is so much here. Nice. Magic items. Ooh, nice. Why is there a magic television? And a magic keytar. Here we go. So the brewing section, that's what I hope we get to talk about next week too, is the brewing section of the potions, because OboJima's got one of the most unique brewing systems ever. In fact, it's its own fucking section. They basically break down. It's very nice because it breaks the stuff into combat potion, utility potions, whimsy potions. It breaks down how the ingredients works. It suggests like almanacs and where to find the materials. There's 150 materials that you can use to make these potions with. This is the most advanced potion crafting system I've ever seen. Look at this. Like, they even have a mishaps table in case something happens to the potion. It breaks down the common ingredients here. It breaks down what they do. And there's dedicated pages of this. Hopefully we're going to be talking about that next week after the last two subclasses, because that's going to take up the majority of the episode.
I would love to talk about that, to be completely honest with you.
Oh, that's the whole reason why I wanted to talk about this book, because I won't lie, subclasses and gear and adventures, they're all great, but if you can show me a unique mechanic to your book, I'm going to love it, because that's the type of thing I really love talking about. Is like, there's been some books that talk about like monster crafting, where you basically are doing Monster Hunter type shit, where you kill the monsters and craft the gear off of them. This is something like akin to this post the alchemy section in Elder Scrolls, where it's every ingredient has different effects. By combining them together, you can create some seriously really good potions. But we will talk about that next time. I think this is a good stopping point. Next week we'll finish up the last two subclasses, go into some of the magic items, and more of the potion brewing, and definitely the potion brewing. Anyway, I want to say thank you to everyone who stopped by today. You were fantastic. We love you all. I'm happy to once again be talking about this with Chitter. I'm glad we're back to doing this. I hope she had a fantastic time.
Yeah, and also for everyone out there, for one last time, because it's just about game time.
Should have read that contract more. Anyway, we're gonna end it here, folks. Take care, good night, have a fun day, and remember, we'll be back next week to finish off more of the classes. Bye-bye, everybody.
See ya.